Hi, everybody. Welcome to Speak AB, Situated Conversations with Andrea Blackley. I'm so excited that you have tuned in to get some nuggets that could possibly help your 2023 be the best year that you've ever experienced. I know that's the goal for me, right? This is the year of plenty of victory in 2023. So the question that I have for us today is, who are you? In order for us to continue to move, to continue to groove, to continue to have a vibe, to even attract a tribe, we've got to know who we are. And as simple as that question may seem, considering it's only 3 words, it is a question that is not asked enough. And it can pose a type of awareness that may cause an emotion, right, that may not feel too good. What do I mean by that? It's like, how are you navigating through that? I remember at one point when I was in the industry of network marketing and I was having success and I was moving around, I was doing presentations in different cities, different states, even different countries. And sometimes I would have conversations after those events, after meetings, and contingent upon where that conversation was going, a few people would say things like, when you really know who you are, when you discover who you are, you will be a force to be reckoned with. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? I think I'm pretty cool right now, right? And again, it was a lot of naivete, it was a lot of experience. Obviously, I hadn't had yet because that was, in a span of over 14 years. And going from 32 to now 46 years old, obviously, there are a ton of lessons that I have learned. There are also behaviors that I've had to recondition. There are thoughts that I had about myself, watch this, that were lies, right? There were also thoughts that I had about myself that needed correction. And I consider correction as, or conviction rather, as a privileged correction, right? Because in Proverbs it says that only a fool despises correction. But as I was, as I encountered different environments, as I came into around different people, certain situations and things and people and encounters had me to want to become a better person, not to be like someone else. You know how sometimes people will say that, I want to be just like, or I want to be just like, and that's looking on the surface. We don't know what's inside. So you could be asking for trouble, right? And on the other end, you could be asking for something good. But again, we never know unless we get intimate. And guess what? The intimacy has to be within ourselves. Because when we're intimate with ourselves, we learn who we are. We learn what we like. We learn what we don't like. We learn about tolerances. We learn about boundaries. Oh, I can't wait to talk about boundaries. We learn about boundaries. We learn about other people's behaviors. We learn how powerful self-awareness is, how powerful transparency is, how powerful being vulnerable is. Because when you take the power away from other people who attempt to tell you who you are, that's what's going to make the difference. See, it even comes into points. Let's just talk about being offended, right? Being offended is a choice, right? It's times I've learned so much about that, but it does have a lot to do with self-awareness, because when you learn more about offense, being offended, where it comes from, what the root is, in maturity, right? As we grow in our development in maturity, we should get to a point to where it's like, okay, am I going to allow what this person said to bother me? Am I going to allow what this person intended to bother me? Meaning that we have a choice. And when we get to the space of knowing who we are, learning who we are, loving who we are, and that's going to come from being immersed in the Word of God. I don't care who you are. I'm not here to push anything on anybody, but as far as where my beliefs are and knowing where my refuge is and being reminded of whose image I'm created in. When I didn't know myself, I would allow things that were said about me to penetrate. I would actually even sometimes begin to believe what people are saying, or more so question what people are saying. And I was questioning myself. So when I get to the point now of saying, man, I really did not meet this Andrea Blackley until December of 2020. And what caused me to get to that point, and why that point is so definitive, is because it was December of 2020 was when I started the process or continued the process. It was like the next level of self-love. But in November of 2020, I was having traumatic suicidal thoughts. Like I did not want to be here anymore, especially who I was connected with The environment that I was in looked one way on social media, but it was completely different in real life. And when I talk about that, and when I think about that, and when I say that I'm so proud of myself for all that I have survived, right? Without knowing, being transparent, being vulnerable, telling a lot more of my business that I didn't need to, because when I didn't know who I was, I used to think that people cared what you were going through. And it's not to say that some people don't, but it's definitely going to be fewer people that care what you're going through rather than the masses. So even with that, when we know who we are, we make better choices. We make better decisions. We choose our environment wisely because we'll have some references, we'll have some experiences that we can recall from and saying, well, I know what happened when I was in this environment and I didn't know who I was. I was susceptible to the opinions, right? To the directions, to the suggestions of other people. Sometimes I would listen to what their ideas were. And if they were against how I felt, it didn't matter. I put myself on the back burner and listened to them, thinking maybe they knew more than what I did when it comes to mentorship and coaches and things like that. I'm not talking about anybody. But this is when I was full of naivete and I just didn't know. And it caused a lot of calamity. It caused a lot of darkness. It caused a lot of unnecessary self-dislike. I won't say that I got to hating myself. That wasn't it at all. But I was definitely disinterested in a lot of situations and relationships and stuff that I was going through. But even at that time, because I didn't know who I was, I didn't even have the courage to speak up. I didn't have the courage to talk about things that could ruffle some feathers, right? That could potentially bother someone or make someone feel some kind of way. Like really taking how something could make someone feel. Of course, you want to consider that. But at the same time, I can't be responsible for someone's response or reactions towards a truth. And the more that I learned about myself, the more I learned that I have to speak up for myself. The more that I learned about boundaries, the more that I understood that my definition and God's definition are the only two that matter. And that anything that anybody else has to say, if it is not conducive to how God sees me and the light that is flowing out of me, we are not connected. And your words hold no truth, no weight, nothing. Just like crushing the devil's head, we're going to crush your opinions. But when we know who we are, we begin to attract other people, watch this, who know who they are. And what I'm about is being around individuals who love themselves so much that their light shines so bright that when I come along and I'm feeling the same way, the light, the illumination gets brighter. I don't have any reason to be intimidated by anybody when I know who I am and it's only one of me, when I know that I'm an original. I don't have any reason to be jealous or envious or wishing or bitter or any of those negative vibrations when I spend enough time with myself to learn who I am, to know who I am, and know that it's a forever process, I believe. I don't know. I'm just 46, so I'm believing that I have at least another 80 years. I want to live like Moses, right? But it's the power in reminding ourselves because of who we are, because the enemy has a goal to kill, steal, and destroy. So it's not just physical, material things. It's to steal our confidence, to steal our self-love, to steal our beauty, to steal our royalty, our kingdomship. We are from greatness. Everybody's put here for a purpose. I believe that. Now I look at a lot of the pain, like I've really, these last couple of weeks, I'm like, yo, you really survived 2022. And here's the last thing I'll tap into, which will be another conversation. I also discovered another flaw, got plenty of them, right? But a flaw in my behaviors and my discipline, because I also discovered like the last 5 years have been really, really challenging. And I just discovered that gratitude journal that I had received at Bob Proctor's event in 2017, right? In Los Angeles, California. We were given so many things, but a gratitude journal was one of them. And I was very, very consistent in that journal until I was not. And I just recently brought it back out. And when I looked, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend and I was convicted because I had discovered that I had not written in that gratitude journal for 5 years. And when I saw that, I just owned it. I gasped. I owned it. I was like, OMG, something as simple as this. Yes, you say that you're grateful, but why would you take away a discipline that you know worked? Well, sometimes we have to go through the seasons of knowing what works and not doing it in order to appreciate the seasons of doing what works and being consistent in that process. To where I can't point the finger and blame anything that I've been through on anybody else, right? In certain regards. Obviously, we can convict people about, behaviors that they actually did. But I cannot take away my own responsibility from certain behaviors that could have possibly counteracted some of the things that I actually went through. So I could say that some of it was self-inflicted pain because I wasn't consistent. I wasn't committed. I wasn't using my tools like I know how to use them. But as soon as I recognized that it had been 5 years since I had written in the gratitude journal, actually I started again in November of 2022 and I only did 2 days. It was the 16th and the 17th, 2 days. And I sat there and I looked at that and I had a conversation with myself like, girl, what is the issue? But I'd rather have a conversation with myself and work through it and come to a solution and make a decision, right? Make a commitment. Hey, we're going to clean this up because I know what happens when I do write in my gratitude journal. Now, watch this. I know what happens when I don't. So which one do I prefer? I prefer the life that is filled with the gratitude journal. Period, point blank in the story. That's me coming into knowing myself better, owning it. Being convicted. AB, you were wrong. How you want to put it? It's not even about being right or wrong. It's just saying, hey, we slipped up. Things were going good, apparently, or whatever was happening. And we let this fall to the wayside. It's just like what we do with the word of God sometimes. Everybody doesn't do it, but some people do. We'll pray to God. We'll have situations that are going on and we'll beg and we'll cry and we'll fast and we'll do all this stuff. But then once everything is situated, we don't stick with those things that worked. And that's why it's so important for us to know ourselves, be like, I know how I am. And if it's a behavior that we need to adjust or modify, it's going to take courage and bravery to actually do that. So high 10 to everybody that does that. I commend you. I send you some encouragement right now. Go ahead. Do it. Here for it. Right? Because we're going to win when we come again with learning lessons that we really didn't sign up for, but that were necessary because our behaviors, allowed that to happen. So my behavior of stopping writing in my gratitude journal, I believe contributed to the challenges that I've had over the last 5 years because I was not taking that quiet time. I was doing everything else and trying all these other different things, but I did not go back to what worked. In that moment, y'all, I sat there and I wrote 53 things that I was grateful for. It wasn't easy at first because I was trying to put things in order, feeling like I was behind. And I said, AB, let that go. Like, give yourself grace and mercy. It's okay. Just write. And what has happened just from me writing those gratitude moments down, and it's like, obviously I'm past 53 now, but just to see the power in it, it lets me know, as I now know who I am. I'm still learning, but I'm definitely not the person that I was, even with the success that I've had. And I'll say that too, that if you had all of that success and those experiences when you didn't know who you were, what do you think is going to happen when you do? And writing in that gratitude journal is going to remind me of how my thinking is. What am I grateful for? It is no longer just material things, obviously. I'm grateful for peace of mind. I'm grateful for protection. I'm grateful for God's love, his grace, his mercy, his forgiveness. I'm grateful for resources, for books. I'm grateful for small things, right? And so that's when we have to slow down and we have to take the time and not be in a rush. And, it's like when you hear people saying, oh, I don't have time for myself and I don't have. So what is taking up the time? We got to do something. We got to make a decision about that because that's not healthy. And the most important person on this planet that we can control is ourselves. So we got to take care of ourselves. And when we know who we are, we make better decisions. When we know who we are, we can be better even to other people. We're definitely going to be better to ourselves because when we know who we are, we do not tolerate people who are not in alignment and speaking highly of me like I speak of myself. I said that something was the last thing, but this thought just came. When I can hear in a conversation how someone sees me, I'm not going to assume. I may ask questions to get clarity. But because I know myself, I now can tell when someone's speaking to me and they are speaking to a lower level me, or they just don't get it. those people are no. They're not welcome here. And it's a conversation that may be had, or it's a conversation sometimes it's not. Sometimes you don't have to tell people that you don't want to fool with them anymore. You don't need explanations. You just move on and you do what's best for you. And again, that's contingent upon the relationship. But when you know who you are, you're going to make some powerful moves. You're not going to be afraid. The spirit of fear is going to dissipate. Even when it comes along, you're going to talk to yourself because you know yourself. I talk to myself a lot. And I coach myself. It's funny. I need outside influence as well, of course, and I'm very picky and choosy about that. Not everybody. Because when you know yourself, then you'll learn who is not for you and who is, right? I, as a coach or even an encourager, I'm not for everybody. But those that I am, man, no, I will give you all that I have. But I had posted the other day and saying, don't let this year of 2023 be a year where you're just receiving encouragement. You're just taking it, but you're not giving it. So it's the same thing with the gratitude journal. God has given us, we got to give it back. We got to show the gratitude, right? We have to know what is important in regards to creating the person that we really want to be, to leave an impact and to be influential on other individuals. And to be able to help people who don't know where they are, and your ears are more keen, your sight is more keen, and you can just smell it when there's a lack of self-love. But the beautiful thing is that now you can come into play and say, hey, you know, not just, it's ways to do it, but to be in a position to know that you can help someone love themselves better, the best way possible, and be happy with who they are. That's what's going to make a huge difference. And I'm here for it. And that's what we're going to do with Speak AB. Looking forward to more conversations, looking forward to more downloads. We're going to keep this thing going. So I'll see you on the next episode. Please remember to subscribe, to like, and to share these videos because it's only going up from here. Talk to you soon.